We have been doing this game dev thing for quite a while.
I was honestly shocked to learn it's been 4 years. I was convinced in my brain it's only been 3 years.
Oh, I thought like 2.5, but sure, 4 years we've been doing this. And of course that means that a lot of things we probably would have done differently and some we might have done the same. So in this video, we'll be covering what we think that are biggest mistakes, whatever you want to do, like just how we would approach things differently when we would start over. So hopefully you can learn from that.
The first thing that I would change, and kind of a belief that I had when we started with game development, maybe this was also because of how we approached it, I'm not sure, is thinking that from day one, we had to do everything ourselves. So when we started with Forge Industry, I mean, you remember this most likely, we did all of the code ourselves. Yeah, that's fine. But also things like 3D art, I was like, oh, I'm gonna learn the 3D modeling myself. And then, we're also doing the game design, we were gonna do the marketing, even dumb stuff like the localization. I was gonna localize the game ourselves to like the languages that I kind of knew, like French and English, instead of tools or other people basically who would do that for you.
We even wrote the localization framework ourselves with a shitty CSV editor.
It was a nightmare, basically. Yeah. I think instead I should have just especially back then when we were making all okay money, to just be like, okay, let's spend $50 on an asset pack or on that. iTTee localize has saved us so much time at this point in terms of localizing our games compared to, sure, we saved it $20 or $20 basically by writing it ourselves, but it's like what did we get from it?
How many hours did it took to write the code
and then do the bug fixes, and then it didn't support certain fonts and
then the shitty UX where it's like, oh, I always have to open Excel and do this and do that and blah blah blah. And
I think looking back even more, I think what I said now, I was making decent money back then. It's like I think I should have almost arbitraged and hired some dude to kind of join the studio as a consultancy thing, focus more on the stuff that I wanted to do, and then not have to deal with I'm gonna learn 3D modeling. Even if there's no good asset, I think it would have still been better to just spend money on some artists to some degree for certain assets and do that to build up the studio that way, instead of being okay, I'm now going to go full time and I have to do everything myself because now I don't have money anymore because I don't have that full-time job anymore.
So basically you would want a coach at the start.
No, that's not what I want to go for.
Because otherwise I would say link in the description to our Patreon where you can coach by him.
Yeah, but it's also more of just outsourcing and immediately seeing yourself more as a producer, especially if you have the budget for it.
I think
trying to do everything yourself.
For me, it's just, if you think about it in numbers, you have to start thinking that your time is also worth money.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest takeaway I get from your things that you would differently.
Yeah, I would say that is the...
Value your time.
Also, you're going to underestimate basically how long it's going to take to learn 3D modeling, for example, where it's it's just a month, right? But it's not a month.
Yeah, and after a month you make a low poly thing that looks all rightish but not good, and you need to be good at this time in... The first thing that I would do differently is I would not have made Forge Industry and I would not have started on Guild Architect. Mainly for the reason the scope of the games are too big.
I think what were the games, just to...
Yeah, so the first one, Forge Industry, the first game we released, it was a factory automation game where we didn't use conveyor belts. I think the concept behind it is great.
But
I think
our 18 months of development.
Yeah, it was 18 months of development, and I think our execution was also lacking even after those 18 months. So that scope is too big. Then we started Songs of Nevermade. I honestly think Songs of Nevermade was a good
It was just
game.
An art problem, basically.
Yeah, but I think Songs of Nevermade learned us a lot of things. So I think that game I would still try to make. I would still fail and then learn, take the lessons. But I also would not have started Guild Architect. It's where we work 6 to 9 months on it or something.
Yeah.
Of a game where it's you manage your own guild. You have adventures with very deep personalities and blah, 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 blah. And also, I think it can be a really cool game, but it's not a game for our studio at that moment in time where you bet years of development maybe
on a game. You don't even know your skills yet.
Yeah, and especially while you're learning, I think games that are short-scoped, they are the way to go, especially when you get started. So one of the things that we did, for example, is when we released Unicycle Pizza Time, is we have, to some extent, recurring revenue from that game. And the further, the quicker you can basically start compounding those, it's what we talk about a lot.
Yeah.
Is
the better.
Because your
first game, whether you spend 18 months or 18 weeks on it, it's probably not going to be a big earner. And it comes only from when you've made multiple games that you start getting better, because nothing will teach you as much about game development as having gone through the entire process up to release.
And I think that's something a lot of YouTubers often forget. And
because it's not as sexy as I made my dream game in Unreal Engine in 1 year.
Yeah, true. So that's the first thing I would do differently.
My second thing that I would change is, for the first game that we make, don't really focus too much on immediately making it a commercial product and like, oh, we have to make money from this. This is what's going to save our, like, we didn't even need to save our studio back then because we all still had jobs. But it was more of, you're adding more load onto yourself from the beginning that you don't need. And look, I love a business sense in a game developer. You need to have something. But I think there's also value in knowing that your first game shouldn't be immediately like a commercial hit. And it's okay to get into game development not with that idea of, I want to make $1 million. Yeah. That can come later, and you can think about, okay, my first few games, maybe I'm going to make just to learn and then get better at it. But at some point, I do want to make money, and that's how I want to do it. We have some viewers who do that, where they made like a first pretty okay shooter game, and then they made a second game that was way better, and then their third game is going to be the first game that they actually think about, okay, let's try and look at actually making money from this now. And I think having that long-term vision is good, but I think especially from the beginning, the first game you make immediately being like, okay, is this a game that can sell, yes or no, is I think not the right approach that we should have.
You need to do the reps before you can get there. That's like when the short scope games, they teach you things, so you have the experience, the knowledge to start making larger scope games that can get you that $1 million, your Ferrari, whatever. Lamborghini, sort of usually, so sorry. So yeah, I completely agree with that as well. We didn't think what we would do differently, but so it's funny to hear what he says.
Yeah, I tried to go for a bit more deep cut ones than the more generic ones.
Another thing I would do differently is I would not do stupid challenges, things, whatever you want to call it anymore, like release a game in 1 month. Even though it's our biggest success, I think what UPT learned me is, okay, short-term games can do well, is basically, I still believe to some extent that if we tackled Unicycle Pizza Time a bit differently, it's our streamer-based rage game, if you don't know, by the way.
It could have been way bigger.
It could have been so much bigger. I don't know if it's a regret or whatever, but I would at least have given it a proper shot, because basically what happened is at the beginning of August in 2024, we're like, we didn't release a game this year because we spent all our time on Guild Architect. Spoiler alert, the thing I wouldn't do anymore.
Yeah.
We really are doomed. Let's make a game in 1 month. And then we crunched, the two of us, for like a month, and we released, it was like, we released, I think it was the 31st of August.
30th, yeah. The problem in this case was also that we kind of had a hard deadline.
Yeah, I know.
Because the next week we were going on to Japan for like
a
month, 2 months.
But that doesn't change the thing that I would have given it a proper marketing push, whatever you want to call it, where honestly, the fact that UPT does as well as it does
with
today,
because we sent
basically no marketing. I know you did some, but I don't.
3 days before launch, we sent emails. Yeah. That was the first point where we had a playable game, basically, and it still had some issues.
Yeah, so I think the fact that it did that well, even though it's not $1 million game or something like that, but the fact that it does way above average than the average game on Steam, I think it shows that the game had really a lot of potential. Maybe it was missed potential. So I would at least have tried to give it a proper send off.
But how would you have then done like the balance of like not spending half a year on it, maybe, when it wouldn't have been worth it anymore?
I would have spent like 3 months on it. I would do the first month basically similarly than we do now. We do the public demo with one level.
Demo?
Yeah.
And then like released with like, we originally had the idea of like, oh, we're going to make 3 levels. And I was like,
after in a month it's not possible, but that's why if you take 3 months, if you do your demo first, if you like gather the hype, whatever, like I think that's the meta or whatever you want to call it for
we really just pushed it out because we needed something, or our company wouldn't like stay afloat.
And after the fact, it also doesn't make any more sense because you missed your marketing beat.
It's like, you can still do like, oh, there's a new level update, but it's like, it's never going to get as big as if we would have just had all of those beats before launch, basically. It's like, you can still do stuff after release, but the impact will always be
It's a bit like the compounding thing we talked about with smart games, where everything you do before launch, it compounds, so you have a big launch. That's at least how I see it.
Yeah.
Well, like, for example, you do demo, it compounds with you have
the next fest.
The next fest, you have streamers play it, whatever. It all compounds. So you have a launch, and boom, you're in new and trending, and you actually get the broad view.
You also get to build hype, whereas you can't really build hype for a post-launch update. Not really.
Yeah, so that's another thing I would do differently.
I think my last thing, and maybe once again, kind of a weird one, is I wouldn't have worried about funding to a certain degree, where we spent a bunch of time on, for example, trying to apply for a government grant. That thing ate like probably 3 or 4 weeks basically of, like even more. Just writing the grant was 2.5 weeks, and then we had to wait 3 months on getting the result for that. We also had a point in time where we were spending time on pitching Guild Architect.
Yeah, publishers.
And I think at the end of the day, right now, the best way to make money for your game studio is just self-fund it until you get to that point where you have built enough of a compound and you don't have to worry about publishers. You don't have to worry about Kickstarter or any other way. If you can get them along the way, good, but they should always be optional things that you're kind of like, yeah, sure, I can take this in right now, and not of like, I need to have a publisher or my company is doomed, basically. And have that approach from the beginning, because we didn't have that at the start. For Guild Architect, I think we always had that plan of like, we need to just survive until we get the vertical slice, basically, and then find publisher funding, and then go from there.
Yeah, but that's a big gamble.
Yeah, and I think I wouldn't have wasted the time on that and just worked on making the games instead. And then maybe, yeah, because what was the game that we... Oh, Ashes of Lyra, that was the one.
Oh, yeah.
I was like thinking, what did we submit the government grant for? But it's like, you know, that kind of put our company in limbo for 3.5 months or something to then not get any good results from it, basically.
No.
I think I would kind of be more pragmatic about those things.
The last thing I would do differently is the balance between work and life, I guess. It's because
you would work more.
No, I would probably work less.
Hey?
Yeah, you're
even
surprised.
less.
Even less. No, because when you look at it, you and William, you basically quit your job very early on, and I think that's a massive risk. I don't know if I would have done that if I were you. I told them that back then.
We had to make it work.
Yeah. So I mean, he didn't say that, so I guess he would still do it. But when I look back at it, there's I think the reason why I wasn't sure like how many years it has been is because my life has been for maybe not 2025, but for 2025 was I work for my day job, I come home, I work for Bite Me, I go to sleep, I wake up, I work for my day job, I work for Bite Me, and the weekend is I work for Bite Me.
Yeah.
And all the days just blend together, and I think there's a lot of time that...
You wasted your 20s working on Bite Me.
How
old were you? Because you're older than me. You were like 24?
23.
2022 we started. Are you? I thought you're 2 years older than me.
I'm from 98.
Yeah, 2 years older.
I'm 27 now.
Yeah, okay.
But we started 4 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So 23.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, like I don't want to say I wasted it, because I honestly think it was worth the investment, but I probably would have balanced it better, because now it was just full stop, Bite Me, everything. I would still...
What would you have done more though? Just play League?
I'm not sure what I would have done.
Worked on more game side projects.
But like there's like, instead of 100% Bite Me, I would go like 90%. I would still want to spend a lot of time now, because what I learned in 2025 is there are things outside of Bite Me. Shocking, I know, right? Like you got married, all those things. So you also learned that. Like 4 years ago, we didn't think about that.
Yeah.
I'm happy that the shift was made for me, at least in 2025, where it was, I still work a lot, but there is room for something else.
I think to a certain degree, and we'll talk about this in a different video most likely, I do feel also like 2025 has been a year where I worked less. Still worked a lot, but less than the previous years. Yeah, and it's like the actual impact maybe isn't as bad as it could have been, basically. Where I thought like, oh, the moment I stop working, everything's gonna fall apart, and then like I don't work for 3 days because I do something else in my life. It's like, okay, no, everything's still on, alive. Yeah.
I think at the beginning we were too...
It was very much Sigma grind sets.
Yeah.
16 hours a day.
Yeah. And I think...
What do you mean you didn't enjoy drinking 6.5 monsters a week on average for like 2 months?
I think it was longer than 2 months. I think it was like over 9 months.
Okay. Hey, I didn't force you to do that.
No, you didn't.
That to yourself.
Yeah, I know. But like when you think about it, it's I think you have to have a discipline, an urgency. I don't know what you want to call it, but like basically you have to make sacrifices.
There's a discipline also in not only working on the studio, basically.
Yeah. So basically, it's
easier to keep yourself busy than it is to do meaningful stuff.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I realized as well. Like, I can easily sit behind my computer, but then I realized I don't really do much. I'm like, yeah, I spent 12 hours behind my PC. And it's like, but what did you do? And it's like, not that much. Whereas if it's like more of like, okay, I have 3 hours now.
Yeah.
I can do more, basically, almost, than by just spending 12 hours brainless behind my PC.
Because something that I learned, for example, this year is if I don't think about Bite Me 24/7, like I'm out like biking with my girlfriend to the city because we're going to a restaurant or something. Like the moment I'm like out in the open, like you get fresh thoughts and you think like, even if it comes back to bite me then, it's like you learn things. And I think the 90% or whatever you want to call it, that you only work instead of 100, that 10%, it automatically fills up to 100 again because you're more productive when you actually work.
So this is how we get rid of the competition. We just tell everyone, stop working.
Yeah,
work less.
Stop working.
But yeah, don't worry about game development.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a weird one, maybe. You didn't expect that one, did you?
No, it was surprisingly deep cut for a shallow guy for the most part.
What do you mean I'm shallow?
No problem. Anyways, so those are some of the things that we would change. What are some things that, looking back, like I asked you to prepare one thing and then I also did one thing. What is something that we did that you think we did well, basically? That we were like, okay, if I start over again, I'm going to 100% do this. So maybe I can go first.
Sure.
I would have kept doing this YouTube channel.
It's funny because I was thinking about putting that on what I wouldn't do again. Yeah.
I think different reasons. I think why, like, it doesn't have to be YouTube specifically, but something social media, because I think the value in developing that as a skill as well is so immensely high, and Bite Me Games wouldn't have been around anymore if it wasn't for the fact that we started a YouTube channel, I would say. Because for a long time, when our games weren't selling well, YouTube, Patreon, and kind of the things around that were the thing that floated the company to give us that leeway to build enough games to survive long enough. And maybe you're better at TikTok or something else. Like, I've seen LinkedIn influencers about game dev for, like, it exists. But I think some sort of a social media thing, and even if it's not only for game dev, even if Bite Me Games stops existing, I think it is a skill that is pretty high impactful that you can use in other things in your life as well, basically.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good reason. I was thinking like maybe I wouldn't do it again because
it takes time.
It
has downsides as well, absolutely.
Yeah. Like that's why I was doubting. I didn't put it in there, so I would have still done it again. But I was like doubting. But yeah,
make some TikToks, make some shitty devlogs, just build it up from the start. Don't be too scared of like, oh, this is gonna be bad quality. Our oldest videos are, looking back, bad quality as well.
You live, you learn.
Yeah, but I think the skills you get out of it is just so powerful at the end of the day.
Yeah. What I would keep doing, and what I think is actually one of the best things we've ever done, and it's a really stupid thing.
Okay.
Is first of all, we do it as a group, easy one, but also William and me working on separate projects.
Ooh, yeah.
I think that's probably
we de-bottlenecked ourselves so much when we did that.
Like, I don't so when we were working on a project.
Maybe for context, William, we are 3 people in our studio. He's just not here. We are like the co-founders, and then William is more of like, he does programming as well. You do program as well. And for Guild Architect, Forge Industry, and like our first games, both of you guys work together. Yeah. And I don't know when we stopped doing it.
After Guild Architect.
Oh yeah, because you did Unicycle Pizza Time on your own, and we're like, actually.
Yeah, and William was still working on Guild Architect back then, because I was like we didn't cancel it back then when we started UPT. And what I learned there was like, okay, William and I, we have different coding styles, whatever. But the time you lose from, hey, William, he's like, I want this to be the best game ever, because he's a bit of a perfectionist, and it was his
You had
idea.
Different mindsets, and it's going to be very hard to find people with similar mindsets.
And we lost so much time because he was like, okay, every code you submit, we do a pull request, we do a review, we look at it, and then he makes code, and I'm like, how the hell did this work again? And then you lose time learning how his systems work, because you have like different coding patterns, and it's the same thing that happens like in my day job, for example, but there it doesn't really matter, so to say, because I'm not the one paying for it in the end. But when you are output focused, I think the less people you have,
or the less people who are stirring the same pot.
Yeah, stirring the same pot. Because that's how I started this. I would still do it as a group, but I would not work on the same things, basically. Because that's what I think is really good, because we basically made it William codes, I code, you do support both projects.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really solid structure, because maybe our output didn't double, but we didn't go down in output. And I would say we like maybe 70% or something more games get released because of this reason.
Yeah.
And we still have the benefits of the accountability partner, or whatever you want to call it, because we have weekly meetings where it's like, hey, this is what I worked on this week. And then you're like, oh, this is shit. And then William is like, I also don't like this. And then I have feedback and I can reiterate. And it's like,
but you can iterate way faster because you know 100% of the code base. You don't have to wait for other people to be like, this is not according to the style guide we have defined here and whatever.
Yeah, you can do your own style. You can do your own way. Like when you say, I see this behavior, I'm like, oh, I know where this is, because I wrote every damn line of code myself. And it's like this clause over there. And it's like, otherwise it's like, so William, what manager does this? And all those things.
I think that's a good one. I think, like I said, with the stir in the spot, it's like, if you want to start like a 2 or 3 person team, 100% that's good, except if it's like 2 or especially 3 programmers, because it's also the thing of like, 9 women don't make a baby in a month is what I always keep saying. It's not that more programmers means it's going to go faster. It's actually often going to be slower because you have conflicts and whatever. Yeah. I think to a certain degree, it's also with artists. We had 2 artists at like interns, and even them, they were working on the same project, but then they still had to kind of like, keep aligning, and they didn't have 100% same style. But if the game, you want to have a cohesive style and things like that. So I think the best thing is like, indeed, like if you're 2 people, just have one guy who focuses on the level design, the game design, whatever, and then have one guy who does the code, basically.
Clear responsibilities, basically. Because when we made UPT, it was like, all right, Thomas, you do the coding, you do the networking, and you make like the skeleton UI. Marnix's focus is level design, making the UI properly look like decent and all those things. It's like
coming up with ideas for the game.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's like clear responsibilities, who does what, and
you don't come into each other's, basically. Yeah.
And then the only time where they are like mapped together is when basically I give him a tool to do what he wants to do. Yeah. That's like the only communication between us. It's like, hey, you use this tool like this. And then if the tool breaks, it's my responsibility to fix it again.
I think that's a very good thing. Yeah. So those are the things that we would change.
Or wouldn't change.
Yeah. What are some things that, because you probably have been going at it for some time, what would you change? What would you do differently? Leave a comment down below, because other people can read it as well. What's your biggest regret?
And maybe as a final one for the people who actually watched till the end, would you start Bite Me again?
Yeah.
There we go.
100%.
Bite Me is not a total flop in Marnix's eyes, at least.
Of course not. Maybe it's just Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah.
Because I'm so stuck at this now, and there's no way to go back.
Yeah. Sunken cost fallacy.
We just have to keep going. Yeah. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Let us know your thoughts down below. And we'll see you guys in the next one. We upload 2 videos every week. And we're on a journey to build $1 million game studio.
Billion. According to William.
A billion even. So if you're interested in how we do that, then just tune along for the ride. Because it's been 4 years. Up to another 4 years.
Yeah, but
hopefully with a yacht.
40.
At that point, yeah.
Another 40 years.
I think I'll retire by then. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Bye.